Hi everybody, happy day. Today I'm going to be doing a flower in a glass vase, and I have the simplest of setups for you. Just a little foam meat tray with aluminum foil on top, and I'm using a number 8 round brush, and you can kind of see by the size of my finger how big that brush is. So this is a synthetic brush, and I'm also using my little water container, which is just a little Gladware container, and just a regular old towel paint rag. So let's get started. Now the first thing I did was use a cerulean blue and white with a little more white to fill in the whole background. I just did little brush strokes like this. You can also do it straight across. And as I got to the bottom, I added a little more of the blue. So you'll notice it's just a little bit deeper cerulean blue at the bottom. So now I'm going to let that dry, and then we'll start our flower. So for our flower, I'm going to start with the stems and the leaves. I mixed my green with yellow ochre. Then I also mixed that green with a little bit of yellow. I always put the light color down first, so I put the yellow down, then mix that green into it. I put a little bit of yellow ochre over here, then mix the green into it. And for my darkest, I have a dark phthalo green and brown. So I mix those together and get the darker shade of green. So first I've taken my middle green, the one I mixed with regular green and the yellow ochre, and I just base coated everything with it. So I filled in my leaf, and you'll notice I always go in the direction of the leaf. You don't want to just kind of fill it in sideways, because leaves always have a direction to their veins. So I just sort of filled in everything, and I came down here with the stems, and same thing over here. And for the thin parts, you want to use just the very tip or point of the brush. And the stroke goes like this. It's just a light stroke that you pull up at the end. So that's how you get that nice thin little line at the end. You don't want to start at the end, because you'll get a fat end of your this is going to be a baby's breath. So you want it to be a nice thin little baby's breath. So you're just doing these nice light little with the point of the brush. And the top of the stem, you can also pull that down and just follow the stem down into the vase, which we're not going to worry about yet, and we're not going to worry about the flower yet, because we want these greens to be pretty much dry. So the next phase is the lights and the darks. So I'm going to take my light green, and I'm going to do a few strokes of the light green near the top where the light is going to be hitting it. So we'll just do a few strokes of light green there, maybe a few here. Let's see, maybe on the left side we'll put some light, because that's where we want our light to be coming from. So we'll just put a little bit of this light green right there. And next I'll throw a little bit of yellow as well. So that will be like a real highlight. And I'll do it kind of sparingly, so we'll just put a few little strokes of that and see how pretty that looks. It's just kind of a really nice contrast. So that is the greens so far. Maybe we'll try some darks as well. Let's throw a little bit of the dark green in here, and that's going to be more on the right hand side, because we have all of our nice highlights on the left hand side. So we'll put some of the darker shades. And underneath this leaf here, we're going to do a lot of dark with that, because that is the underneath this leaf that you're really not going to see, because if you'll notice, the top of the leaf is turning over around it. Now we're going to put some dark on the left hand side or the right hand side of this one too, and a few darks on that side, and maybe a few darks on this side. Okay, so there is our contrast, and maybe we'll have a little bit under here as well. Let's do that. All right, so now we have some contrast on our leaves. And if you really want, you can blend it. I like sometimes just to leave it a little more rough. That makes it a little more painterly. But you can do either way. So we'll stop there, and I'll go to the flower next. Okay, we're back. Next part of the flower. So now we are taking our red, mixing it with a little bit of white. So I'll put the white over here, mix a little bit of red into it. Then we're also going to put a little yellow down, mix a little red into that. So we're going to start out and outline our flower. Now what I did is I took the little bit of pink, which is the red and white, and put it right at the top here and outlined the tops with the pink. And the bottom I outlined with the straight red because that's where all the darkness is going to be. Now this far little petal over here is going to have a darker pink on the top. So once we have that outline going, now we can just pull our color onto there. So we want to pull our red, and it's just strokes. If you notice, it just kind of goes up like this in the same direction of the flower petals. You don't want to just fill it in sideways. You want to keep it in that nice direction like that. And I'm going to pull this right into the pink. So we start with the dark and we go into the lighter pink. And we're going to do the same thing here. I'll go up into it and fill it all in. And now inside here, we can just sort of pull down just a little bit because that's going to be the inside of those flowers. We don't want that to interrupt our edge of the flower there. Now it looks very rough. So what we're going to do is a tiny bit of blending. So I'll take some of the pink and I'm going to blend that down into the red, just a few little strokes like that. And we'll do the same thing on this petal. We'll pull a few strokes of that pinkish down. And the same thing on this last petal here, just a few. And then I'll get a little bit of white and mix with my red, so I have a lighter pink. And we'll do the same thing on these top edges here. Now we want a nice, really light pink for the very top. And you'll notice we got it a little darker. So we're going to put back a little bit of the light pink and pull that down. So now you can see that contrast again. So now we have our light pink and our darker pink and our red. So we're just going to kind of put those little dashes on there. And I left this space here just so I would know where the petal ends. I'm going to go back with my dark red. And this is going to be this kind of separation in between these petals. It's sort of the shadow between this petal and that petal. And that way you can know where that petal kind of ends and the next one begins. And what I'm going to do is just sort of blend it as I go, just blend it, blend it, blend it. And so now you can kind of see that separation. And the other thing you can do is take a tiny bit of red, put it aside, take a tiny bit of your dark green. And you notice that I did it a little too dark, but maybe not because we're going to blend it in. So now I'll take some of that. And you'll notice, since these are complementary colors, when they blend, they make a darker version. So what that just did was make a darker version of that red, and we can put a tiny speck in the bottom of there as well. Now you can see that nice contrast because we have the green and the red together, and it makes a really dark red, kind of a red in shadow, so to speak. And we can also go over that line in between. So now you can see that you have the dark red, the regular red, and the pink, and the really light pink. So instead of having just a flat red flower, now we have a flower of some definition. So we'll let that dry and go on to our baby's breath. Now we're going to put on our baby's breath. So we have our little branches there, and you can see I put some on ahead of time because I just wanted to kind of let you see what it's going to look like. So we're just going to dab with the very point of the brush because we don't want this to be really heavy. So we're just going to keep coming back for the white and just do little dabs like this with just the point of the brush. And that gives you the idea that this is all nice little baby's breath, little individual flowers. And that's kind of going behind the flower here because we want the flower to be the focus. And we also didn't really want to cover up the leaves, but now that the leaves are dry, we can put a couple around there. So now you have the pretty baby's breath all around the flower. And you don't want to do perfect rows. You kind of want to scatter it a little bit so that it doesn't look like this perfect row of little white dots, because then it won't look like a real baby's breath flower. So now we have our little baby's breath, we have our flower, we have our leaves. So the last thing left to do is our glass vase. So once this is all the way dry, we'll go put our glass vase right on top of it. Now we're ready for our glass vase. So I outlined the vase in just plain white, and right now it just looks very flat. So what we're going to do next is we're going to take our white, use just the tip of the brush, and we're going to just go inside this edge of the outline and just very lightly kind of go around it like this. And you can see it's just a light going around the edge. And the same thing under here. And what I'm going to do next is take a plain brush with no paint on it, and I'm just going to pull some of that color in just a little bit. And you can notice now what it does is it gives you this nice little light faded version, and it makes it look like it's translucent glass. So we're just going to kind of fluff that paint just inward a little bit, right around the edges like this, and now you can see it's starting to really look like glass. And now we're going to let that step dry before the next one. All right, and here is where we finish our vase of flowers. I put a little bit of that cerulean blue down here for a bit of a shadow. I just sort of put a little there, faded it out, and that looks like now we have our light coming this way, so we have our light on our leaves and on our flowers, and it makes just a little shadow on the ground. So now I also added a little bit of white to the bottom here to be the bottom of the vase. And I added a little bit of water to some white and I put it over the whole thing. So now it looks like this really nice translucent vase. So the last thing we have left to do is put on our water line. So I'm just going to do a little bit of a curved line like this, going down, a little bit of a curved line going up, and it looks like it's sitting all by itself. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to take my plain brush with nothing on it. I'm going to take off some of that white that I just put on, right where the foliage is. So now you can see that it looks like it's actually going into the water. And I'm going to fade this just a little bit, take some of the white, just go around it like this. Now it looks like it's sitting in water. That is just so cool. So I love it to do that. So now we're going to take a couple little streaks of just plain white so it looks like some light on your vase. And I think we're all finished. So hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you with the next video.